Are they disease carriers?
They can be.
They can be. All the carnivores can get rabies.
Yep.
Raccoons and skunks are carriers, and foxes are carriers. But again, any wild animal that's not looking healthy, you particularly want to keep your distance.
And like dogs, coyotes can also get distemper. So there are a number of diseases, and mange as well.
Yeah, distemper's one that people can't get, so we don't have to worry about that. But mange people can actually get.
Mange
So
people
you know,
can, yeah.
and you'll see the coyote will have a particularly ugly-looking coat, and so you want to be careful. But mange, distemper, rabies, these are all things. Parasites.
And so what should someone do if they see a coyote walking on the backyard, walking down the street?
You want to take that one?
Yeah.
My best suggestion would be to, observe the coyote. Just essentially try and scare it away if you don't feel comfortable. Be it clapping your hands, stomp your feet on the ground. Maybe if you want to take a handful of change, put it in a coffee can, rattle it around. Even if you wanted to throw a stick in the general area of it, that it might make a noise closer to the animal in order to scare it away. But other than that, unless it's sick or injured, the town really can't do much about the coyote just walking down the street or walking through the backyards.
Right, but I think it's important that people essentially let coyotes know that we're more of a threat to them than they are to us. And I think one of the problems that causes conflict sometimes, and one of the reasons that coyotes get so used to people and get habituated to these types of environments, is that people become reclusive around wildlife. When they see a coyote, they go in the house and they hide, instead of showing an aggressive behavior towards the coyote and letting it know that this is my territory and you're not welcome here. And that's one of the things that we strongly advise people is like he said, throw a stick at it, even throw a rock at it. Don't try to injure it. We don't have a reason to injure an animal that's acting normally, but if you see it in your backyard, throw something at it. Even get an air horn and blow an air horn. They have pretty sensitive hearing, and that might be enough to dissuade them from coming back.
Yeah, I think James and Kevin, that's great advice. And once you kind of do that, and I think Kevin's point about we want to make sure that the coyotes respect us as much as we respect them. But then I would say, well, celebrate. Because when you think about it, there's probably 3,000 dogs that live in Yorktown and maybe 100 coyotes. So you've actually had the chance to see a natural predator. You've seen a part of nature that we didn't have in Yorktown until the last 15 years or so. So it's a case of celebration if you're interested in ecological health and nature.
I'll tell you, I'm fascinated by coyotes. When I hear a coyote, I think of the Wild West.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
Absolutely.
They're beautiful animals, I think. Let's briefly talk about foxes.
Okay.
All right. What's the difference between a fox and a coyote?
Well, you have the obvious size difference. Like we've been discussing, coyote can be up to around about 40 pounds, whereas a fox may be in the 10-pound range. It may look a little bit bigger, but that is definitely one of the subtle differences that you would see. It is probably about half the size.
Right. And during that pup rearing period, foxes will be out and about during the day, that springtime period, and they become more common, the sightings at least. And people fear them probably as much as they fear coyotes. It's that whole appearance of that canid, that dog-like animal. But judging by their size, they're not much of a threat to people. Even the children, I haven't heard of any incidences where people have been attacked by a red fox unless it had rabies. And I've only heard of one instance of a fox with rabies biting somebody since I've been in the region here. And it does happen. Foxes do carry rabies, like Fred said. But for the most part, they're not a threat to people. And even more so than a coyote, I would celebrate seeing a fox because they are a more reclusive animal, except during that pup rearing period where, if they have a den near somebody's house, it'll be more common to see them during daytime periods. But, people don't see foxes very often, and that's something they should be excited about.
So, and coyotes, do they eat foxes?
They will kill foxes.
Yeah, actually the biologists have found that in general, when the coyotes move in, the foxes move out.
Yep.
And I did, just from lots of people call T-Town with observations, I have noticed that there's more reports of foxes in southern Westchester than there used to be. And of course, more reports of coyotes in northern Westchester. So it used to be much more likely that you would see a fox in northern Westchester than a coyote, but it's almost starting to reverse. The foxes are, my experience has been that they're a little more active in the daytime around here than coyotes. So you, residents in the area are more likely to still see a fox than a coyote.
Are the foxes in T-Town? Or
abs-
can you go to Bronx Zoo and see them?
Yeah, absolutely in T-Town. We have both coyotes. Again, when we did this study, we had 36 pictures of coyotes. We had about a dozen pictures of foxes. The full report's available on our website, by the way, if anybody wants to read it. And there is another fox, though, that very, very few people ever see.
Yeah.
But there is a fox called the gray fox.
Gray fox.
Now, if you see a fox-like animal, but it's gray rather than reddish, and the tail, again, will be bushy and long, but it won't have a white tip, then you might have really been lucky and saw a gray fox.
Gray fox, right.
I've lived in the area for 15 years. I've seen only 2 gray foxes, so they're very, very hard to see. And they're fascinating because they actually climb trees.
Yeah, the only canid species to do so,
Yeah.
I believe. Yeah.
So they're fascinating.
How do they climb trees? Because they have very sharp nails? And
Their claws are a little bit retractile and they're curved, so they can actually grab onto trees, and they back down a tree like a cat coming out of a tree. They tend to live more in the swampy forests, whereas foxes they tend to be more in grasslands and shrubs and on the edges of forest.
And foxes, what's their social structure?
Well, usually you read that they're monogamous, one male and one female, but they really only spend time together in the winter. They breed in the winter, and the young are born usually around April, and usually they're together in the winter. In the summer, they tend to be more solitary. One observation I've had in the area is that people will often see foxes now in the Yorktown area, northern Westchester, around their bird feeders, because we have a lot of chipmunks, and chipmunks have learned to eat the seed that falls from the bird feeder. And foxes have discovered, a great place to hunt is to hang out at the bird feeder and grab the chipmunks when they run by. So that's becoming a more common observation.
Yeah, and that's why one of the things that we tell people if they want to reduce those interactions between humans and wildlife is to put the bird feeder away. You know, a variety of species like bears, coyotes, foxes, they'll all focus on those bird feeders, not just for food, but for what comes around and eats that bird seed. So, you know, birds don't really need that supplemental feed during this time of year. So there's not really a need to have that bird feeder out. We all like to look at birds, though I can understand why people do it. But if it starts drawing wildlife in that you don't want to have around your home, an easy solution is put the bird feeder away.
We have about a minute and a half. See, this went very, very fast. Quick question regarding foxes. Maybe you can answer in about 10 seconds or so.
Okay.
Have there been attacks, reported attacks?
The only case that I've heard of is that one rabid fox. That was probably 2 years ago, and I haven't heard of another one since then in my tenure here.
James, nothing in?
No negative interactions here in Yorktown.
You know, foxes only weigh like 10 to 15 pounds. Your house cat weighs 10 pounds. So they're really small. They look bigger because they're fluffy, but they're really just a large cat.
Yeah.
I assume in the wintertime because they have the fur that they...
Yeah, they look a little bigger.
A little bit big. So,
No need to be afraid of a fox.
Fred, we'll start with you. If somebody wants to get in contact with you, what would they
Well, the best thing
have
to do is to come to our website, ttown.org. And by the way, on the home page, there's a video, a 3-minute video about suburban coyote study here that T-Town and Cornell has worked on. And also on our blog, which is on the home page, there's links to a coyote story that you can see.
Kevin, we have to wrap this real fast.
What I would say for the public that wants to contact us is contact us at our general wildlife line at Region 3 New Paltz, which is 845-256-3098.
And James?
The Yorktown Police Department, 914-962-4141, or the yorktownpd.org website, where you could send me an email if you'd like to.
Fellas, I'd like to thank you for coming on. It's
Thank
been
you.
a fascinating
Thank
interview.
you.
I'd like to thank everybody for watching 30 Minutes. I'm your host, Daniel Lefkowitz. And this is actually part 1, and we're going to have a second part. We're going to talk about skunks and raccoons. So thank you again for coming on.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thanks.